It was coming to mind for me, as I was mentioning, is the like say that mindfulness is not isolated on its own. It works in conjunction with the other factors of the Eightfold Path. Eightfold Path has say the function of being in the service or in the perspective of the Four Noble Truths, in getting the sense of how things work together or how they are nested together. Say like this Russian nesting dolls, and it's just these layers, or how say like a piece of cloth or a rug, a carpet, and you start pulling on one of the strands, and then the whole it's connected with everything else. It forms a part of that whole carpet or whole rug, so that the teachings of the Buddha really do all fit together, and these, as we pay attention to the development of the mind, where sometimes it can be a bit overwhelming because it's like, gosh, I've got to know this bit, and I've got to know that bit, and this fits with that, and it can feel a bit overwhelming, and but I think that's why, say like with the Buddha's teachings, you can pick up any aspect of it, and it relates. So you have to. So well, what is it that feels comfortable, feels interesting? Because you start exploring that, and that will lead as a doorway into the rest of the teachings and the whole panorama of the both the content and the purpose of the teachings. Let's say the four foundations of mindfulness. The Buddha introduces the body first, and which is that's a very skillful way of giving a tangible handle, or giving a tangible basis in order to explore these teachings, because the mind is yes, we have to understand the mind, but sometimes the mind's a bit slippery and is a bit oftentimes deceptive. We have all these various biases and agendas that the mind is running on. So it's helpful to come back to something fairly basic or straightforward. So the body is a good being, tangible being, is made up of fairly relatable elements. One can start to explore that, and when the Buddha, even the aspects of the body, I mean, there's many different aspects that the Buddha points to as a basis for cultivation of our mindfulness, cultivation of our mental development. But the first thing that the Buddha introduces with the aspect of the body is mindfulness, and so it's that cultivation of mindfulness of breathing is it's a foundational practice that we, as we gain more skill or experience, it has the possibility of taking us to freedom, to liberation. So it's even if one just picked up mindfulness of breathing and really developed it, that would be sufficient. I mean, that would be insufficient. And that's in the like the discourse that we do chant. The Buddha is quite clear. When mind up and cultivate, it's great fruit, great benefit, and it fulfills the four foundations of mindfulness. When the four foundations of mindfulness are developed and cultivated, they fulfill the 7 factors of awakening. When the 7 factors of awakening are developed and cultivated, they fulfill true knowledge and deliverance. So there's the whole path of the Buddhas right there, and starting with something pretty basic. One breath coming in, one breath going out. And that's something we don't even have very much control of. I mean, we can regulate the breath, or we can a little bit. And then certainly once we relax and just ease into the tension, then the breathing does get a bit more subtle, but still, breath comes in, breath goes out. It's a pretty basic function of living beings. Even when you think of say, like in the precepts, the very first precept of not taking the life of living creatures, the living beings, how the Buddha defines a living being is say, when you say panatipata, it's like pana is a breathing being. That's what a living being is. So it's this universal characteristic of all living beings, and we are part of that, and the breath is a defining feature, and we can use it to develop our mindfulness, our awareness, our attention, and the first basis of doing that, of course, it is an introduction into the whole four foundations of mindfulness. Just by using the breath, one can develop an awareness of all of the aspects of the four foundations of mindfulness: feeling, mind, mental objects. But again, the first basis is the body itself. So that sitting, the Buddha has us go to a quiet place, which here we are in a retreat situation, and people are in quiet places, and just setting one's body erect and establishing mindfulness. It's, whether one is sitting in a chair, sitting on the floor, it's just having a certain uprightness, so that one is bringing a kind of energy to the attentiveness to the process of breathing. And I think that alertness and presence of mind, using the physical posture, because sometimes it's really said if you're tired or you're bored and you start to slump, and so physically you're slumping, and then mentally you're slumped. Or if you're agitated and restless, the body it feels this kind of agitation, this restlessness. The mind, of course, is agitated as well, but it just using the breath to inform the posture, so that sitting up, upright, erect, alert, but then mindful of the breath coming in, mindful of the breath going out, letting the breath suffuse the posture in a way that both things and uprightness. I mean, the nature of the breath is that it's expansive. Like when you breathe in, you can feel the body kind of expand. But of course, it's going to contract a bit. There is this expansion and contraction. Particularly if there is a sense of say dullness or tiredness, then you want to pay attention to that expansion. Or there's a sense of dis-ease, and the mind is kind of contracting or feeling light and not very calm. You can use the breath to expand and soften and ease and relax. So just using the rhythm of the breath, it comes in as it goes out, to get a certain sense of balance and a certain feeling of lightness and ease, because we do want to, or we need to, rely on a feeling of ease in order to be able to attend closely. If we're really, say, fearful or anxious or really upset at something, it's difficult to have to sustain attention in a way that is able to reflect and investigate, or to attend closely the nature of our experience. It does require a certain ease and to use the breath and use the present moment as a doorway into this feeling of ease, of relaxing, enjoyment, to enjoy the opportunity to be present. Because so often we feel, say, compelled. There's a compulsion to do something, to be something, to try to get something, to try to achieve and attain something. I've got to be mindful. I mean, we can drive ourselves kind of agitation trying to be mindful, and that just recognizing that, as soon as I just am present, into this present moment, with the body as a basis, mindfulness is right there. So often we tend to chase after mindfulness. We're trying to chasing after the mind. My mind goes here, my mind goes there, and we chase after it. And when we run after it all the time, then we get tired. And to just be content with this present moment experience. In, one knows I breathe in. Breathing out, one knows I breathe out. Be content with that simplicity. And if we're not content, just the effort to be present allows us to see a bit more clearly what's going on behind that. What are the compulsions? What is the obstacle to being alert and present, aware, peaceful? Gets to see it a bit more clearly. And that's certainly the beauty of say, meditation, but then to have a period of retreat allows us to explore that a bit more deeply, because we start to see those patterns repeat more. It's more in your face. So one is more motivated to learn, to understand and work through. So it is using this mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of the breath, bringing a certain precision to it. I mean, it's not just sort of sitting there spacing out with the breath coming in and breath going out. One does need to bring a certain precision to what one's saying. I mean, and not in an obsessive way, not in a neurotic way, but it's there's the mind requires certain element of something to reflect off of, so that just knowing when the breath comes in, is it long? When the breath goes out, is it long? When the breath comes in, is it short? When the breath goes out, is it short? Of course, sometimes breathing in long is and breathing out long is really soothing. And sometimes it feels a bit strained. Sometimes breathing in short, breathing out short. I think, well, it can feel a bit strained, but sometimes it can feel really, say, easeful. Like sometimes the body is so relaxed, the mind is so relaxed that the breath it's almost as if, we just don't need to breathe so much. There's just a little whiff of a breath. But we're just sitting there quite content and clear and easeful. So it's just paying attention to and having a certain precision of what one is experiencing, and the breath is a constant, but it's not constant in the sense of it's uniform all the time, and it's sometimes we modulate it ourselves in order to either to energize ourselves or to settle ourselves, and sometimes we're just taking note of, oh, that's what it feels like. That's what the experience is. So that using the breath as a mirror for recognizing more clearly what the mind is actually doing. And that starts to connect with the breathing in, experiencing the whole body. Breathing, experiencing the whole body. That sense, that samvagaya patisamveti. Experiencing, sensitive to the whole body. And we don't have to try to take note of everything. It's just more like getting a feeling of the whole body, or a feeling of the experience in the body wherever it seems to be manifesting, or however it seems to be manifesting. But using the whole body. So you're not trying to just tightly focus on the tip of the nose or something and to disappear into that experience. Sort of, there's a bit broader sense of this process of breathing and being a living, breathing, sensitive being, and on that. As one starts to recognize, again, there's the rhythms of the breath and the experience of the body, and then what those bodily experiences, or the bodily experience, how that mirrors our emotions and our particular mood at the time. It's the bodies are really foundation for getting a clear sense of what our what's the mind doing? What's the mood of the mind? What is because the body is not very good at lying. Our minds tend to be pretty at lying and concealing things or obfuscating experience. That the body is a bit more fundamental and basic, so that we get a better sense of what instead of those pulls of desire or the kind of the the repellent quality of something that we're averse to. And even if on a rational, logical basis, this doesn't make any sense, or we don't want to feel that. We have it. That bodily experience is there, telling us what it is. So that tuning into the body and getting a better sense of that, and that again we're to be our whole, say, modern culture and our cultural biases tends to put much more importance on the mental aspect of things, or the intellect and the conceptual experience of things, as opposed to the experience in this way. So the Buddha is having us coming back to what more fundamental level of our experience. Yeah. In experiencing the whole body. I shall breathe out. Experiencing the whole body. That year of being a monk, and monastery that I was at, there was a layman had who spent quite a bit of. He'd just come from Japan and spent quite a bit of time in Japan and stayed in Rinzai monastery, and it was a Rinzai training monastery, so that there was sort of ongoing retreats and periods of sesshin that they was quite. The Rinzai tradition can be quite say intense and focused, and they're and they kind of ramp it up a bit, because you're supposed to go in every day, and the Rinzai tradition is used as a koan practice, so that you're given a koan, and you're supposed to give to the teacher, to the roshi. And there's a formal way of doing that. You go in and you're in the line behind the others, and everybody else is trying to give their kind of answer to their koan, and so you want to get it right. You want to go in and give them through. So there's a feeling of intensity and wanting to come to a point of understanding, or at least getting one's understanding verified by the teacher. And it's really when you give your answer, and for the most part, the teacher would just, you go in, you bow 3 times, you give your answer, the teacher is there, and then the roshi will just ring the bell and dismiss you. And that had this particular person who I experienced it, and how frustrating it was, because this kind of ramped up feeling of got to get this, got to understand it, I've got to figure this out, and of course it's using the intellect, using the mind, and it's really frustrating, because you go in and you bow and that's it, and the teacher invariably would ring the bell, dismissing him, But then he was a kind of a big guy, and he'd just laugh and he'd slap his belly and body understands. And that made him even more frustrated. Because he's trying to, what does he mean, body understands? And of course it took him quite some time to realize, well, stepping back from this constant, obsession of the mind trying to figure things out on an intellectual basis, on a rational, conceptual level. It's much more useful, much more fruitful to come back to a mental level of the experiencing the whole body I breathe in, experiencing the whole body I breathe out, and to that level, and understanding starts to manifest on its own because of clarity and because of a directness of experience. So that, and we do need to pay attention to relaxing, calming, settling, and that, say, the next part of the the instructions that the Buddha gives for mindfulness of breathing, and so that I show in our chanting is this tranquilizing the bodily formation, but pasambayan is calming, settling, bodily formations, and that is both the actual, say, body, but also in and out breathing itself. The bodily formation or the body conditioning, so that it's okay to the word that comes to mind, which is to manipulate our experience, and not, I'm not using that in a negative sense, but it's a modulate our experience in a way that to settle, that helps to ease, bring a sense of ease, a sense of well-being. Just breathing in a way that we're not frantic or fretful or filled with expectation, has to be this, has to be that. Just calming, can we just breathe in calmly and breathe out calmly? Be alert, be present, be clear and steady. Well, yes, of course, we can do that. But we have to remind ourselves to do it. And that's what this mindfulness is all about. And we have to remember to do that. Was that like the word sati is the word for, usually translated as mindfulness. And its root, in terms of the etymology, the root meaning of say, of the word sati, its root is in memory. So memory, recollection, remembering. We have to remember to be present. Remember to be easeful. Remember to be clear, because the habit patterns tend to either to dullness or to agitation. That's the habit pattern. But mindfulness of breathing, we're bringing a recollection or remembering of being present. And so So that using the foundation of the body as a basis for developing a continuity of awareness, a continuity of clarity, and keep it easeful. And this is where you say in the instructions that the Buddha gives on mindfulness of breathing. The next step starts to move toward feeling, emotion. Veti pati samveti. That I shall breathe in, experiencing rapture. Or, sure is maybe a bit have a exalted feeling to it. Piety is most often translated as joy, but also, I think one of the words that comes to mind with say that piety is a sense of, say, exhilaration. Like it's really like there's an emotional quality, exhilaration. There is an emotional quality of uplift, of energy, certainly a positive, joyful quality, and that's we're not trying to numb ourselves so we don't feel anything. You're actually using mindfulness of the breathing, mindfulness of the breath, mindfulness of the body in order to open the possibility of these extremely positive emotional states of mind. Well-being, ease, and piti is a sense of exhilaration. There's an energy that comes up that's very exhilarating, it's uplifting, and certain, let's say, happiness of mind that arises and starts to make a lot more sense why I'm sitting here watching my breath coming in, breath going out. It's not just to patiently and dully sitting there waiting for something to happen, but it's, there is this, when one engages with the nuity of attention that is very balanced. Again, there's a sense of one isn't trying so hard that one is crushing a feeling of ease, but one isn't being so lackadaisical and relaxed that one is spacing out. The image that is often given in the literature is one of how one holds a baby bird. So you've got a baby bird that is probably a bit agitated if this huge human being is picking it up. Maybe it's one is picking it up out of care and compassion, concern, and hold on it so tightly that you hurt it. But you need to, you're having to take it somewhere, you need to lightly hold it, so that it's not crushed. But then you can't just put it on the hand, because it will just fly away. And the mind is similar. One is having to approach the mind with a balance of both discipline and diligence, and a sense of ease and relaxing. And it's an ongoing theme that we have to be exploring over and over again. So the sense of piety, as experiencing rapture, experiencing joy, those are on a certain level, on a mental level. And the next step that the Buddha points to is part of the anapanasati is sukha patisamveti, breathing in, experiencing pleasure. So sukha is usually translated as happiness. I think that in a sense of how we, in our chanting book, it's translated as pleasure, is important in that, say, like piety is much more of a, say, like a mental energy, a bubbling and exhilaration of mind. But then sukha is sort of more pleasurable. It's more vading through the body, as opposed to just bubbling up in the mind. And so that bringing the and sometimes that's how it's experienced, but then also giving attention to that so that we do experience this pleasurable sense through the whole body. It's really so easeful, relaxing. Pain and discomfort really do dissipate as the mind settles. Mindfulness becomes more of a continuous stream within the mind. Then the other is an easing of pain. You feel like sometimes you feel that posture quite naturally get more erect, a bit more energized, but very easeful, and the body softening, but being quite bright and alert. So that there's a pleasure there, and an easing of discomfort and pain. In this, say, the next section of Anapanasati, which follows the four foundations of mindfulness, you're using the body as a doorway, using the body as the basis of experience, using that mental experience of breath coming in, breath going out, alert, present. But then you're also attending to the feeling tone of the experience. And the feeling tone is one of, say, pleasure, pain, or that is something that, the Buddha points to. Is every experience has a certain feeling tone, whether it's physical experience, mental experience, thoughts, however fleeting or however sustained, there is a feeling tone to it. And this citta sankhara, the mental formations, the mind conditioner, the mental constructs, these are different translations for this word, citta sankhara, but it's what forms, like when we say mental formations, it is what forms the mind. And Buddha points to two things that form our mental world is feeling and perception, association. And every mental state will have feeling tone, and will have a component of memory, of association, of giving meaning. That's the function of perception, is to give certain meaning to our experience, and to tuning into that process of mind that is this is pre-verbal, pre kind of thought proliferation. This is the underlying tone that is shaping the mind. So that feeling and perception, these are these mind conditioners, mental basis of forming our mental world. And so that recognizing it, paying attention to it. And again, just breathing, I shall breathe in, experiencing the mental formations. I shall breathe out, experiencing the mental formations. It's an opportunity to tune into another area, level of experience that we to notice, tend not to pay attention to, and then tend to get tangled up in the, rather than paying attention to the roots, we get tangled up in the ends of things. And that's why I say the next section is, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the mental formations. I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the mental formations, or calming. Somebody has like calming, settling, these formations of mind, these aspects of feeling and perception. So that it's not just triggering, because that's what triggers the whole, say, the thought and proliferative process. The whole thought process, the objectification process, the creation of the whole program of me here and the world out there, is this whole sense of I. I am, I should be, I will be, I won't be, I can't be. All of the I formations are built up out of just this feeling and perception. So that recognizing it, understanding it, and just this, we're breathing in, breathing out anyway. Why not pay attention? Why not back with having a point of clarity to be able to understand these processes, and that's this practice that we're doing, this practice of mindfulness. It's not just to be, say, mindful in the sense of being. Having an object of attention and holding desperately to it. one is using mindfulness as a mirror to be able to reflect back and understand our experience of our body, experience of our mind, experience of our world, experience of our creation of that world, so that we are able to exercise some discernment and skill in not creating and then inhabiting a body, a mind, a world of that's fraught with suffering and discontent and difficulty. And say, this is the opportunity that the Buddha is giving us. So this period of retreat, of course, we've got retreat is similarly as it's a part of our life, and so to be able to take this period of retreat in order to gain some skill, gain some understanding, to learn more clearly what this thing we call a human being is, and then having that understanding and that wisdom to take into our daily life. But for now, we have this retreat period. I just encourage people to explore the breath, explore mindfulness, but in particular in the meditation, just lying on the experience of the breath to open the door, open the window into these four foundations of mindfulness, and how to learn from them, how to benefit from them. So I'll offer that for reflection.